Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to IBM Map's VetNet webinars. Today, our session is on networking with LinkedIn. IBM Map has partnered up with LinkedIn to provide two-part series on utilizing LinkedIn as a networking tool, and also how to build your awesome profile on LinkedIn so that way you can actually use it to the best way possible. So before we get started, I just want to let you know that this session is being recorded, and everyone that has registered for this session will receive a recorded link afterwards and with a follow-up survey. So definitely please let us know what other future webinars you'd like to see and how we did today. Also, I just want to remind you our second part, VetNet with LinkedIn, is on September 28th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So we will definitely would like to see volunteers. If you would like to volunteer to share your profile of LinkedIn so that Sarah here can take a look at it and provide feedback, definitely do so. If not, we'll definitely have some volunteers and she'll definitely provide feedback and how to set up your LinkedIn profile for next time. That being said, we will give Sarah first step of the session to talk about how to utilize LinkedIn for networking, and then we'll go into live Q&A, and you'll definitely have time to ask Sarah questions. So if you do have questions, please use the chat box or raise your hand and we'll get to you. That being said, Sarah Roberts is head of the military and veteran program at LinkedIn. So I'll let her introduce herself and tell a little more about what she does at LinkedIn. Sarah, welcome.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the introduction and for the opportunity to connect with everyone today. So yes, my name is Sarah Roberts. I lead LinkedIn's Military and Veterans Program. I am an Army veteran and have spent most of my career working in this space in the technology industry. So I'm really looking forward to having a chance to share more about LinkedIn and how LinkedIn can be used as a tool to connect to economic opportunity. I know I wouldn't be where I am today without leveraging LinkedIn as a tool, and it's certainly been an important part of my professional journey. So with that, I will jump in. I am going to share my screen with the presentation, and I will just go ahead and jump in. Let's see here. Let's make this presentation mode if it will let me. Oh, let's see here. It just restarted on me. So let's do this one more time. Okay, hold on with me for a second while I pull this up. We just did this, so my computer decided to restart here on me. So give me a moment to pull up the presentation for you. Okay, let's try this again. Okay. Can you give me a thumbs up if you're able to see this?
Yes, we can.
Oh, super. Okay. Sorry about that. We did a test beforehand, and in typical technology fashion, you always have to be on your toes. So I'm going to chat a little bit more about how to create your LinkedIn profile, how to leverage LinkedIn to make the most of your career transitions. So when we talk about LinkedIn and we talk about this presentation, I'm going to hit some different areas, and those include how to build your professional brand, how to create your LinkedIn profile in a way that best tells your story, and then leveraging LinkedIn to grow your network, connect to economic opportunities, connect to jobs, and then also how to leverage LinkedIn Learning and continue to stay on the cutting edge of different learning opportunities to stay fresh and educated on the different things that are happening in your particular sector. So why LinkedIn? So I love this visual. So when you think of, obviously this data is much larger today than it was, even 4 or 5 months ago. We're about at 770 million members globally. But when you think of every time you go onto LinkedIn and you make an update to your LinkedIn profile, you create a profile, you change jobs, you add a skill, all of that information provides unique data points for us to understand the global workforce. So we're able to look at the membership and the profiles of all of those different pieces that are being updated over the course of time to be able to infer really interesting workforce insights. So what industries are hiring, what geographies are people moving to, what are the top jobs, what are salaries? And so we use all of that information to then share with the workforce to better understand where there are opportunities. So LinkedIn's vision is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. I sit in social impact. So the way that I think about this is how can we support our community of job seekers that might face increased barriers based off of their set of experiences. We know that military members make a pretty significant career pivot going from their time in the military into the civilian workforce. And so inherently there are some additional barriers that, we face as a part of that journey when we leave the military. So when you think of why LinkedIn, why should I be using this platform? How can it be of benefit to me as a job seeker or just an industry professional? Well, as you can see, 97% of Fortune 500 companies are on LinkedIn. Most employers are using LinkedIn as a way to better understand their candidates. They're able to get more information from your LinkedIn profile than they can just a resume. But also that's where employers are. And so when we think of LinkedIn, it really is truly a marketplace that connects job seekers with employers. And so when we start to think about service members and spouses on LinkedIn, there's, not only are there millions of job applications submitted every month, there's millions of job seekers on LinkedIn, and companies are posting all sorts of available jobs and updates. The other piece that I love to highlight on this slide is 9 out of 10 employers use LinkedIn at some point during the hiring process, whether that's sourcing candidates, whether that's going back and doing reference checks or exploring your LinkedIn profile to get a more holistic picture of your professional story and who you are. So LinkedIn is actually a really valuable tool, both for the employers as well as job seekers. So how do you start with telling that story, telling that professional story? Well, before you do that, the first thing you're going to want to do if you are in active job seeking mode and you are looking for that next opportunity is go to linkedin.com/military and upgrade to premium. That's probably going to be the most important piece in being able to grow your network in a meaningful way. And it gives you enhanced access to some of the features that I'm going to talk about. The benefits of premium are that ultimately you're going to get a deeper understanding of, who's out there, increased job insights. More people are going to have access to view your profile as well as the enhanced LinkedIn learning opportunities. So once you've done that, these are just the quick prompt of steps. So you're going to authenticate through ID Me. If you have an ID Me account, it's super easy to do. If you haven't done one, it is relatively easy to set one up. But you're going to authenticate your military service affiliation through ID Me. And then as a next step, you'll have access to your premium. So as we think of that professional story, once you have your premium set up, there are some really unique differences between your profile and your LinkedIn, or between your LinkedIn profile and a resume. When you think of a resume, oftentimes your resume is geared towards a job or a subset of jobs or a family of jobs, but it's oftentimes catered to a select employer or just a couple of employers. When you think of your LinkedIn profile is available to many people to view. So I like to think of your profile as something that is a more holistic picture of who you are in your subset of experiences and your professional story. The other piece that I love about your LinkedIn profile is you're able to weave in more information about yourself that you can't always throw into a 1 to 2 page resume. You can add in recommendations, endorsements, skills, certifications, a lot of different things that just really help tell more about who you are and offers an opportunity for employers to have the chance to better understand you as well as look for ways to connect with you. The 5 biggest areas that you should focus on in creating your LinkedIn profile, if you don't have one already, or you have one and you just want to invest a little bit of time into it to make it better, is take a great photo. First and foremost, make sure you invest in just a photo, a headline, summary, and then, adding your job descriptions and company information as well as skills. And we're going to talk through each of these. So when you think of adding your profile picture, you want to add something that is authentic. You want to ensure that your picture represents the industry that you want to go into. You want to be authentic. Most of us have phones or devices that take very quality photos where you can just find a background, or you can use the profile option on your iPhone if you have one to take just a wonderful photo. There's no need this day and age to invest in a professional photo, but ensure it's representative of you. And then also just be thoughtful of how you dress. Just a quick stat down here at the bottom is 21 times more views and 9 times more connection requests if you have a picture. You can also add a background photo. So you can have your profile picture and a background be another way to tell a little bit more about your experience or your story or something that is unique to you. So definitely invest the time in adding that in. The next piece that's super important is adding in that professional headline. And so this is just a snippet of mine. One great thing you can do on LinkedIn is you can research how other people have written their headlines. So you can start to get a sense of how somebody that might be working in a particular job or industry is representing themselves, or telling, or thinking about how they want to write their headline and the keywords that they're using. It's really an opportunity to throw in 5 to 10 keywords. Stay away from transitioning military, student, veteran. Those are often words that most recruiters, unless they have a military background or have experience working with military members, they oftentimes can't relate or don't know what that means. So I would just be really thoughtful about some of the keywords that you do decide to use. Actively seeking employment, that's a great one, especially if that aligns with turning on that you are open to work. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. The next piece is your summary. So this is your opportunity to write in, a few sentences, maybe a short paragraph about who you are, your accomplishments. It should be something that's positive, forward-looking, but really just helps tell a little bit more of a holistic story about who you are and what you are excited about and what you're hoping to, do as it relates to your professional aspirations. So this next piece is, as you start thinking about, it's great, I've got, my summary, my headline, my photo, but the hardest part, at least for me personally, is thinking about how I want to define my work and volunteer experience. So this is probably an area where it will take you the most time, but just being thoughtful about how you want to represent your experience. Again, adding that in, obviously from a data standpoint, gets you more visibility, both from recruiters and other members on the platform. So you definitely want to invest the time in doing that. The first piece is starting to think through your company information. So, many of you on this call have served in the military or have some type of military affiliation. And so adding that as your company is how the algorithm is going to identify that you're a veteran or somebody who has served in the military. This person is somebody that most of you have probably heard of. The way that this person, General McChrystal, has built his profile does not align to how we would find him on the platform. So again, we need you to be able to identify one of the 5 service branches as the company that you've worked for in order to pull you into the actual search filter that recruiters are using to find military members for their job opportunities. So again, just taking the time to be thoughtful about that and ensuring that when you select one of the 5 service branches, that it is affiliated with the military, it's US Army, US Air Force, USMC, and so on, and that you're choosing that as your company. The next piece is investing the time in writing out and, really defining your professional experience in the military. It is important to be forward-looking. So one thing I recommend is, taking a look at people who have similar jobs in the private industry and using the way that they have described their job experience and trying to do the best you can to translate your experience so that it's really forward-looking and military, not so full of military jargon, but is something that recruiters can start to understand. So I love sharing this example. This is a person who worked in the Army as an S1, a recruiter is going to have no idea what an S1 is. But the way this person has really started to translate their military experience is I can see, oh, this person worked in human resources. I know what human resources is as a recruiter. And so I can better understand how their experience shows progression and how that aligns to the job opportunities I might have at my company that are within HR. The other piece that's important to highlight here is the recommendations. And so again, one thing that you can't necessarily weave into a resume or
Hi, sir. Can you unmute, please?
oh, yeah, there we go. But anyway, it's a great opportunity for you to be able to weave in recommendations into your profile. Okay, so the next one is licenses and certifications. So again, this is relevant if you are looking at going into an industry or a specialty that requires a unique certification. So, if you were somebody that worked in Intel and is looking at using that security clearance for a job opportunity, certainly something you want to add in, as are certain professional licenses that might be required for a job opportunity, or other areas you might just want to highlight on your LinkedIn profile, but definitely invest in adding that in as well. And then volunteer experience. I love the idea of adding volunteer experience. It's a great way to fill any type of employment gap, but it's also a great way to weave in additional skills outside of just your day-to-day work skills. So again, I also love adding volunteer experience because it helps expand your network and the different areas in which you demonstrate that you have experience and interest in. Again, just outside of that professional day-to-day job to really show, your diversity of experiences that you want to share. And the last piece that I wanted to touch on here was the importance of adding in skills. So you can list up to 50 skills on your LinkedIn profile. You can spotlight your top 3. I always recommend, as you start to fill out your skills, it's probably going to lean more towards populating military specific skills, but invest the time and be really thoughtful and forward looking on what skills do I have and how do those map to future opportunities. So again, you may have quite a few military skills that pop up, but being really thoughtful about translating those skills so that they are more private public sector friendly versus just military jargon skills or military affiliated skills. And then again, just quick summary. When we think about this from a recruiter standpoint, listing your military experience properly is important so that you get pulled into that LinkedIn recruiter filter that employers are using. Investing in that profile picture, taking the time to list up to those 50 skills. And then this last bullet isn't as relevant now just based off of the time we're in, and there are more remote opportunities. But it is important to select a geography because oftentimes employers do still take the path of least resistance. But as a job seeker, you will see more remote opportunities and more employers open to remote workers just based off of where we've evolved. So this next piece I'm going to touch on is really the networking and thinking about how to grow your network on LinkedIn. So some of the things that are super important as you think of why should you invest in your network? Well, 70% of people that get hired are oftentimes hired as a result of somebody in their network. And so when you think of where you should invest your time in actively job seeking, it's really in thinking about how to build that network. I would say that, I wouldn't be anywhere where I am today without my network. Every job I've gotten as a result of me having coffee with someone that led to a connection, that led to an informational interview and, eventually a recruiter screening call. So thinking about how you invest in making connections and doing it in a way that is authentic and thoughtful is really important. So when you think about how to discover connections and look for new connections, this is just the common people search filter in LinkedIn. So if you go to that top search bar, you can search by people, and then you can start to customize and play around with the search filters based off of what the types of people you're hoping to connect with to grow your network and build your existing connections. So once you found a few people that you're interested in reaching out to, maybe you share military background in common, maybe you went to the same school together at some point or served in the same unit, you want to send them a message. And so once you've identified a handful of people you want to connect with, writing in that customized message is super important in terms of how you think about reaching out to this person in a way that is both authentic, but also thoughtful. So I'm going to just click through these slides here because what I love about this visual is it really shows the power of networking. So if you think of yourself as that individual in the center, and then each circle is your first degree connections, and outward it goes to your second and third degree connections. So when you start building out your first degree connections, as you start to think about strategically expanding your network, it is through your first degree connections that you can start to reach out to second and third degree connections. So those are people that you might not share something directly in common with or be closely affiliated with, but they might be a recruiter at a company that you want to connect with based off of, somebody in your first degree connections might be that person you served with. And so again, I love how this visual just really demonstrates the power of networking and how you can start to diversify your network and connect with people who are outside of your immediate first degree connections. One piece that I would love to just highlight, oftentimes the military community has a closed network. And so what that means is our networks are very military heavy centric. We're mostly connected with military members. And when you look at civilian networks, just shy of 1% of civilian networks have a veteran in their network. And so it's really on us to be super intentional about diversifying our networks because that's how we're going to start to connect to various opportunities. So when you think again of the power of LinkedIn, it's great to use LinkedIn to your benefit, but don't just be a taker. I think this is a great highlight around our military community in general, is that we can reciprocate and give back to those who are, in the next few years going to be filling your shoes. They're going to be the ones transitioning. So, sharing content, giving testimonials and recommendations, investing your time in doing informationals and sharing your experience with others who might reach out to you and making introductions for others. So those are all ways you can add value back to LinkedIn, as well as your network, and give back to those that will be transitioning as well, because that's probably something you're going to be leaning on right now as you're actively transitioning. So the next section we're going to talk about is how to find your way into new opportunities. So this is a new feature that we have, the hashtag open to work. And so you can go into your LinkedIn profile. If you're somebody that is actively job seeking, you can customize this hashtag open to work. You'll get that green circle around your LinkedIn profile. You can customize it based off of job titles, locations, whether you're available now. If you want everybody in your network to see you're open to work or just recruiters, you can again customize that based off of what is unique to you. But the reason I highlight that is a really important feature. If you are actively job seeking, it is also a spotlight feature in LinkedIn Recruiter. So recruiters can go in and filter by people who are open to work, and you'll immediately pop into their search filter. So again, just something to be cognizant of if and when you reach that point where you are actively job seeking. So the way you do that, this is just a really quick tutorial. So you go to that little suitcase sign at the top of your LinkedIn profile, go to get started. And then again, you can customize it based off of location, title, the things that are unique to you. And again, I'm just showing the prompt of how you can share it with your network or just with recruiters. Okay, so searching for jobs. Just the same way you went and did the people search, you can go back to that same search toolbar and search for jobs. It is just as customizable as the people search. So you can search by title, company, location, again, whatever is important to you as you start to think of prioritizing your job search. So one thing that I always recommend is that you use the job search feature and the people search feature in complement. And so the example here is, say you've found 4 or 5 jobs that you're interested in. The next thing you're going to want to do is find people who work at that organization that then you can be thoughtful about reaching out to. So in this example, and this is honestly exactly what I did when I transitioned out, I identified like 4 or 5 companies, different jobs I was interested in. I went back to my people search. And I started searching by members who had worked for the previous company of the military. And in my case, I'm an Army veteran, so I was just playing around with US Army. And I started to select people that I had shared the same academic institution as, who had served in the Army and worked at these companies. And that was my way in. That was the way I reached out to somebody to have coffee. I would say, invest in a Starbucks gift card or whatever your local coffee shop is you start to feel more comfortable going out and meeting people in person. The other piece that I think is really important, again, it is a premium feature, is once you've identified, a subset of jobs, you're reaching out and networking, is the profile or the algorithm is going to get smarter. It's going to start to understand the types of jobs you're looking for based off of your search preferences. And so through this feature, you can see the circles at the bottom are connections that you have that work at that company. So that's already an easy way for you to start to see people you might already be connected with who are working at that organization. The other reason I love this is as the algorithm gets smarter, it's going to populate jobs for you that you may not have even thought about, that are either within that local geography or that job family. You can give LinkedIn the thumbs up, thumbs down if it's something you're interested in, again, just so the algorithm can get smarter and more effective for you. But something just to be thoughtful of, again, as you can use LinkedIn, not just as a networking tool, but as a tool to research connections and companies and job opportunities so that you're using your time as wisely as possible. And again, this is just another example of how premium can be super beneficial to you as a job seeker. So these competitive insights help you better sort of calibrate your experience in yourself and sort of where you stack up against other candidates. So we do know through our research that if you apply within, the first day or so of a job being open, you have a higher chance of being reviewed by the recruiter. So you can start to see how many applicants have applied, how many in the past day. You start to get a sense of seniority level. I will be totally honest and say understanding corporate civilian leveling titles is really difficult, even for me. And so trying to get a sense of that through the insights is helpful, as well as education. And then top skills. The reason I want to chat on this really quick is that you can start to see the skills that are listed in the job and the skills that you have. And then you can start to identify if you have a skills gap for specific jobs you're looking for and where you might need to upskill in order to be more competitive for a particular job. And again, this is also a premium feature. So starting to get a sense of where you're a top applicant at specific jobs. So again, this is just an example based off of my LinkedIn profile. But again, as you start to play around with it, this is going to start to populate for you where you start to search for more jobs and get a sense of where you're a top applicant for some of these unique jobs at particular companies that you're searching for. Okay, so as we transition to this next piece and this last piece, we're really talking about how to continue to maintain your industry knowledge, not just from a LinkedIn learning standpoint, but also seeking out information from others who have more experience navigating the corporate space that you can potentially lean on for support or mentorship. So again, I recommend joining groups. Join groups that are not just military groups. I've listed out some great military groups here. I'm sure IVMF has a fantastic group, but also being super thoughtful about joining non-military groups that are other areas of interest that you have. So again, as you think about diversifying that network, closing the network gap that military veterans do have in connecting to opportunities with civilians who do not have as many military members in their networks. This is an example of somebody just posting a question on a group. And I love the response because this is really the military community rallying around each other. So this person is looking for a particular job at Amazon in the transportation space. And he posts this comment and you can start to see people just pile on with responses. And eventually it gets connected with somebody who is willing to take the time and invest in it informational and share more. So again, super strategic. This person could have spent, a whole day applying to transportation jobs on Amazon, but this one post got them connected with an actual person who can offer a meaningful conversation and point them down the right path. The other option is using alumni groups as a way to connect with other people in your network. So, where they live, maybe, a school or a company where they're working. Again, you can play with this, but this is also a really valuable tool to use when trying to grow your network with people who have, scattered across various industries. And then this next piece is really just informational interviews. So you've got several people that you that are willing to connect with you or that you want to reach out to that you've identified. And I would just say taking the time to, ask for advice, leaning into say, I would love to learn more about your experience or, how you navigated this. I would never lead with, I'm looking for a job. You're really seeking information about a company or a role or a subset of opportunities, and then just see where it leads. But again, those are things that I recommend just in reaching out to somebody and being authentic in how you're leading with asking for a connection. And then again, we did touch on this, just, as you continue to search for jobs, the algorithm will get smarter. But again, I love the idea of, reaching out to people that you're already connected with, that are already working at a company or in a job that you're interested in. Again, like this is where LinkedIn is super fun to me, is, leveraging the power of the tool for research is just, you'll learn so much about the different opportunities and people, that are working in different industries. And then the last piece here is, thinking about how you can optimize the information from company pages, again, to grow your industry knowledge. So you can learn a lot from a LinkedIn company page about, where their headquarters is, the types of business units they have, the different opportunities they have available. So by following company pages, you are engaging with that talent brand. These are spotlight features that are in LinkedIn Recruiter. And so again, being engaged with that talent brand is a feature that a recruiter can pull into their search criteria. And so if there are a subset of families that you are interested in, or a subset of companies, follow those companies. You'll start to see their content in your LinkedIn newsfeed, and you'll start to just learn more about that company's brand and culture. You can also do a deeper dive on some of the life pages. Again, this is LinkedIn specific, but most companies have these where you can start to really learn a ton about a company, especially if you're prepping to go into an informational or you're prepping to go into any type of interview. You'll definitely want to invest the time here. And then just this last piece before we jump into Q&A is really around LinkedIn Learning. So, continuing to lean into LinkedIn Learning as a tool to upskill. There are over 16,000 LinkedIn Learning courses, and it's a great opportunity to take some of those courses, add that badge to your LinkedIn profile, and demonstrate that you have skills in maybe an area where you had a gap previously. One thing that LinkedIn launched as a result of COVID is this opportunity at LinkedIn. And we've identified the key industries that are hiring with the most job opportunities. And you can actually take a LinkedIn Learning path with a certification at the end. There are some subsidized Microsoft certifications that you can take after you've completed that learning path for some of the more technical roles that we see across the industry. So something worth exploring if you're looking at that avenue as well. And again, this just highlights more of the resources on LinkedIn Learning. So again, you have to have your LinkedIn Premium in order to access those 16,000 LinkedIn Learning courses. So if you remember anything, linkedin.com/military, if you go to the resources tab right here on our LinkedIn social impact page, this presentation is there, as well as a suite of resources for veterans, job seekers. There's some information on networking. So, between now and the 28th, if you want to invest some more time in just digging around, please do so. There's a great suite of resources available. And so with that, thank you for your time. That is all I have from a presentation standpoint, and I will go ahead and hand back over for any Q&A questions that may have come up.
Thank you, Sarah, for the awesome presentation. Yes, we did have a couple of questions come in, and I just want to remind folks, if you do have a question, please type in the chat box or raise your hand and we'll get to you. So we had a first question from Jonathan. He said that Sarah mentioned importance of listing your military experience properly. Can you show us how to do that?
Yes. So when you think of your military experience, I think the one thing you can be thoughtful about, especially around your LinkedIn profile, is you do have the ability to list more experience than you do on a resume. But because you can do that doesn't mean you should write a book on your professional experience, especially if you've been in the military for more than 10 years. I mean, you certainly are going to have a lot more experience. I would say that the more you can summarize your experience into Areas of similarity, the better. So if you were at a particular unit and you had, say you were working in 3 or 4 jobs, but they were at the same unit and they were kind of in the same family, that would be something that you would want to summarize as like one experience. The one piece that I think is really effective, and again, just know there is no black or white answer on how to build your LinkedIn profile. It is yours. You build it the way that is authentic to you. But what I see as being the most effective is adding a summary. So rather than getting super prescriptive or super detailed and adding in bullets under each of your jobs, just adding a summary is great. The part that you're going to want to be most thoughtful of is spend less time looking back on your experience and more time looking forward. So what I mean by that is print off 4 or 5 job descriptions, highlight keywords in those forward-looking job descriptions that you have, and use that to weave into your military experience. Again, that's probably going to be easiest for you. Those keywords and skills are going to be what recruiters are searching off of. And so if your resume or your LinkedIn profile is full of a bunch of military jargon and a bunch of information, it's going to be harder for them to weed through. So that would just be my thoughts. And then again, it's really up to you. I would not list every single job you've had in the military. I would really just focus on the ones that, you've had for the longest, or you felt like you had the most experience in, or the jobs that you think map to the industries and roles you're most interested in. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Sarah. We have another from Aaron. Where can you learn more about LinkedIn filters and best practices?
Yes. So I would say just if you have a LinkedIn profile, the best way to get familiar with some of the filters is to just go into LinkedIn and play with it. You can do it on your mobile device. The mobile app is super intuitive and user-friendly. You can do it on, a PC. If you prefer doing that, sitting down in front of a computer, but I would say just play around with it. You can't do anything wrong by, just playing around with some of the different filters. It's very user-friendly. You can search by people, jobs, content, but I think the more you play around with it, just like any social media platform, the more comfortable you're going to get and the more familiar you're going to be with certain features are. If there's things that, you are not able to find, you can always literally Google search it or LinkedIn search it. We have a great help center that has all of those tutorials. So if you're like networking on LinkedIn or how do I use groups, you can type that into a search browser. You can type it into the LinkedIn Help Center and you'll usually get an article that has some detailed information. And then the last piece I would say is if you have LinkedIn Premium, there's a ton of LinkedIn learning courses about LinkedIn that are super short videos that you can leverage that will give you like an actual tutorial. The last piece that I would add is there is a great video that is way better than my presentation called Rock Your Profile. I don't recall if it's unlocked. I believe it is unlocked, meaning you don't have to have premium to access it. But that is a great video that you could play. You can pause it. You can go into LinkedIn and sort of do like a right seat, left seat. But she actually goes through and does like a visual demo of the different pieces that I'm talking about on a LinkedIn profile while she's presenting. LinkedIn Learning course, it's about 30, 45 minutes. But I definitely recommend that as a follow-up.
Thank you, Sarah. We have a question from Charles. Why are there so many different preferences of how your LinkedIn profile should look from professionals?
Okay, so if I understand this, is the question more, if the question is coming more from a standpoint of like, why isn't there like black and white criteria on like, here's how your LinkedIn profile should look? I think it's your profile, just like it would be your resume. I think though, the way we think about it at LinkedIn is that every person is unique. We're also thinking globally and everybody articulates their experience and their professional story differently. And so we have created basically like a canvas on how you can articulate your professional experience. And we want you to color the canvas however is authentic to you. And so, the 5 areas I had talked about, like your picture, your headline, your summary, your work experience and your skills, like those are all part of the canvas, and it's up to you to build that out. I would say one of the things that I personally really struggled with early on and kind of building out my LinkedIn profile and just kind of building out my professional identity post-military is that, like, in the military, we think like very kind of black and white, like this is how a military resume looks, or like this is how I complete like my military profile for, or my military experience for a promotion board. Like it's very straightforward, but your LinkedIn profile is not like that at all. So it can almost feel overwhelming with how creative you can be in building it. So we have certainly ideas on where we see you getting the most value in investing in your LinkedIn profile, but how you write your story is really up to you. And that's not something that, we would really be prescriptive about. Like, we really want you to be able to create that canvas that is authentic and unique to you.
Thank you, Sarah. We have a follow-up from Aaron. He said he meant filters about what recruiters are seeing. So Aaron, if you want to unmute yourself and ask that question, you can definitely do so.
Yeah, hello, this is Aaron. I guess my question was, you said that recruiters see our profiles, but they can't understand the jargon. So how someone who doesn't maybe have a background know like the best phrases to use? Is there a way to translate our stuff better so that we don't get filtered out when they're looking at our profiles?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for clarifying. That helps a ton. Yeah, so when you think of, so I used to work as a recruiter, and I have a military background, so I'll pretend I don't have a military background. But when you go into LinkedIn and a recruiter is searching for candidates, oftentimes the way a recruiter is searching is based off of a job description. So a recruiter will work with a hiring manager has an opening on their team. The hiring manager has specific requirements that they have for that job. The recruiter will work with the hiring manager to craft a job description that meets the needs of that hiring manager and their team. The recruiter then posts that job on LinkedIn, and they're going to start looking for applicants that have a set of skills that align with that job description. So when a recruiter starts searching, and they're searching using oftentimes the filters in LinkedIn, they can do a Boolean search, but many recruiters don't do that as much anymore. They're really just using the filters in LinkedIn. But they're going to go through and they're going to start to, I have the job description here, and I'm looking for candidates that have these select skills that align to this job description. So you as a job seeker, especially a military background, somebody with a military background, that's where you want to be super thoughtful on looking at the jobs in a forward-looking way and saying like, okay, I'll just make this up. I'm really interested in going into the HR function. I'm looking at these 5 jobs that are in the HR kind of sphere in the corporate sector. And I am literally going through and highlighting the skills and the job, the language in that job description that I know I have. I'm going to take that and I'm going to be thoughtful about making sure I weave that into my experience that I'm highlighting on my military or from my military experience on my LinkedIn profile. So, certainly you don't want to add an experience you don't have. But if you have leadership experience, or you understand like personnel management, or, you understand leadership development, like I'm just making up terms that might be in this HR job description. Those are things you're going to want to be really thoughtful about adding into your LinkedIn profile, because those are the filters that recruiters are going to search for. So there might be an education requirement. You might have to have some type of human resources certification requirement, but those are all things that are going to help you if you're forward looking and you're actually looking at jobs that you're interested in and thinking about how you can sort of reverse engineer that into your LinkedIn profile, so that as a recruiter is searching through those filters in that job description, your profile is popping up because you've been intentional about adding some of those keywords and those requirements that are in that job description. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Sarah. We also have a question from Rachel. She would like to know, is there an option to search for fully remote positions on the job search function?
Yes, there is. There are actually, we just published some recent data on the increase in remote job opportunities. But yes. So when you're going to location, you can search for, we've added in some additional features. So remote, flex work, and hybrid, in additional to like a physical, like geographic location, like a city. So yes, you can add that in both in your profile, your hashtag open to work, and then you can also search for that. That is a filter in the job search function. So yes.
Thank you. And we have a question from Jacob. What are your thoughts on listing LinkedIn Learning or other online learning courses on your profile? Should they go under licensing and certifications or courses?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you take a LinkedIn learning path and you complete the learning path, some of the learning paths have assessment at the end. And if you take that assessment and you pass that assessment, it will prompt you and ask you if you want to add that to your LinkedIn profile. If you say yes, it'll automatically be added sort of at the bottom under your licenses and certifications. You can also just manually do it. It's really up to you. I mean, if I take a LinkedIn learning path and the ones that don't have an assessment or do have an assessment, and it's something I want to add to my LinkedIn profile, I'll just say yes, and it'll automatically be populated there. If it is a learning path or a function that like helps address a skills gap or shows enhanced knowledge that would make you more competitive for a job, like, yes, you should certainly add that to your LinkedIn profile, because as a recruiter is doing a filtered search, if you have that criteria on your LinkedIn profile, you're going to be more likely to pop into that recruiter's search string.
Thank you, Sarah. We have another question from Tyrell. He would like to know, what are the pros and cons of alphabet soup after your name, like such as MBA, PMP, MHA, and things like that?
That's a really great question. I would say, like, from a LinkedIn standpoint, there isn't a preference at all. So when you, like, if you have some of those, like if you have a specific title you want to add to your LinkedIn profile, especially if it's up by your name, like, absolutely add that in. It, like, whatever is most authentic and representative of how you want to demonstrate or highlight your professional experience is great. However, if you have that title and you don't want to add that to your LinkedIn profile at the top, if you weave it in under your summary or your headline or under, your job description, it will still be pulled up by a recruiter's filter search. So it doesn't necessarily matter where it is on your LinkedIn profile if it's something you want to add, but it's entirely up to you if you want to add it up at the top under your name, or if you want to weave it in somewhere else on your LinkedIn profile. I would say the most important piece is, as long as it's there, it's searchable for a recruiter.
Thank you, Sarah. If you guys have any more questions, please type them into the chat box or raise your hand and we can definitely get to you, and you can unmute yourself and ask. And those were all of our questions that came in. Sarah, I just want to say, I'll give you guys a few more minutes or so, just to see if you have any more questions. But besides that, thank you so much for being here today. And I'm definitely looking forward to our next VetNet webinar on September 28th. And just to let you guys know, next webinar is going to be more interactive. We'll have a couple of volunteers who are willing to share their profiles. Sarah will review a couple of profiles and she will go over them and just provide some feedback and suggestions on how to improve those profiles. And we'll have more of an interactive session next time. That being said, while we still wait, if anybody has any questions, this session is being recorded. And if Sarah is comfortable with sharing her PowerPoint, we'll definitely put that in the follow-up survey. So please let us know how we did. And we'll include our next webinar as well on the 28th. So definitely register for that one as well. We have not selected profiles yet, so we're going to wait probably a few days before the webinar, and we'll send those over to Sarah, and she'll select a couple of them. Okay, guys, thank you all so much again, and looking forward to our next session. Sarah, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Looking forward to the next one.
All right, guys, have a good day.
Bye.